Thanks to everyone who has already joined. I can see we have more people joining in. Anne Nyachomba, we are excited to have you. Priscilla K, it is our pleasure to host you today. Gure Gidinji, you're very welcome. We are in for an exciting conversation today. We should be started in a few, so maybe as we wait for the time, you can just prepare your writing materials. Normally such conversations have great lessons and insights to take away. You want to put down something. We have two exciting ladies today that will be talking to us about a subject that I'm just about to introduce. And we are looking forward to a good time. The webinar today is a pre-launch conversation brought to us by Zion Pearl Publishers. Zion Pearl Publishers is a publishing firm and is also the founder of the She Leads project. So this is part of the She Leads project, and today we'll be having a discussion on the upcoming book to be launched on the 30th of November entitled We Took the Risk. It is a book that is done by a collection of women, and we shall get to know more even as we delve into the discussions of the day. So relax, get ready. If you have your questions already, you can begin to be putting them down. You know, sometimes we get to meetings and we are coming to get a specific answer to a specific question. So if you have such a question, you can note it somewhere. Later on, we shall open the floor. You can post it in the chat. We will give you time. You can raise your hand. And when given the opportunity, you can ask your question. Juliet Njuguna, I can see you have joined in. Thanks for joining us. We are glad to have you. Okay, good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching us from. You're very welcome to this highly awaited pre-launch webinar for We Took the Risk, a book that is authored by a collection of women who are just sharing their experiences, of course, giving us the value of risk-taking and why women should embrace it as a strategy for growth and success. This webinar is brought to you by Zion Pearl Publishers. And together with us today, we have two of the co-authors of the book, We Took the Risk. Actually, the launch is coming up on the 30th of November. More details shall follow, but we are privileged today to have two of the co-authors of this book. They are here just to tell us who they are and to share with us a little bit about their own life experiences on risk-taking, the challenges they have encountered as women, either by embracing risk-taking or avoiding it. Together with us is Joyce Wangu and Jackline Matarimo. I will at this point take this opportunity to bring them to introduce themselves. And I will begin with you, Jackie. Just tell us about yourself. Karibu, Jackie.
Thank you, Dottie. Thanks to everyone who has joined. I can see my good friend and my mentor is in the audience. Anne, hi. Thank you for joining. So yeah, my name is Jackie Matarimo. Actually, it's Jacqueline Matarimo, but I prefer Jackie. So Jackie Matarimo. My background or my area of expertise or work related, as I'm in the CX world, customer experience. So I've majorly been working with fintechs and startups for over 12 plus years. I'm excited to be part of this project, as it's called The Risk We Took. Even writing the book itself was a risk. So yeah, looking forward to having a meaningful conversation with all of you and a very interactive session. Thank you, Dottie.
Thank you, Jackie. Just like you mentioned, that even being part of this collaborative work was a risk. What motivated Jackie to be part of this work? You know, coming together with women you have never met, you don't know their backgrounds, you don't know the possible outcome, but here you are. You gave yourself in, and the book is coming out soon.
Yeah. Number one, I'm very proud of myself. Actually, Anne, I'll keep mentioning Anne. I'm sorry, I'll mention you here and there. So Mr. Dosso reached out to me on LinkedIn, yeah? So he sent a message on LinkedIn. I just read it and, nika-ignore. Nikasema, watu wanatafuta watu kwa LinkedIn. They want me to write a book about my story. Then I just didn't give it a thought. Then my friend Anne had also gotten the same message. So we were out somewhere having a conversation, and Anne mentioned that these guys that they want me to write a book. I was like, is the guy called Dosso? I was like, yeah. I was like, they even wrote to me too, but I've not responded. She was like, what are you waiting for? Can you just respond and, just do it? I was very skeptical at first. Kuogopa, what am I going to write? I've never written anything before apart from Inshana composition back in the days. That is the longest thing that I've ever written. Then I was like, let me just, let me do it. And then when we submitted the stories, and then the other 11 ladies wrote their stories, and then the first draft came. Joyce, remember the time we had that physical meeting and we were joking about, hey, Mr. Kikustoma stories are watu wengine, because I might go back and rewrite my whole story over again. So I was like, whatever I've submitted is what I'm gonna write. So it's been a beautiful experience, and it was a new challenge that came into place, and I wrote it.
Congratulations. Thank you for being part of this great work. Now to you, Joyce Wangu. Tell us about yourself and possibly how did you get to be part of this great collaboration?
Thank you, Dottie. Thank you, everyone who's on the call. I see so many of my friends. Do I start mentioning them, lest I leave anybody out? Ngure, Juliet, Emma, Elizabeth. I see all of you. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to more of you joining. So who am I? I'm hoping this is not like the interview question. Tell us about yourself. Well, my name is Joyce Wangu. I keep saying it's Wangu. When I meet with people from a different area code, they call me Wangu. That means mine, but it's Wangu. So Joyce is a talkative, lively, outgoing, adventurous person. That's really who I am. What do I enjoy? I enjoy exploring, traveling. I enjoy a good argument. My friends will tell you that. I like good banter, good arguments. But what do? I wear many roles. I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm an aunt. Professionally, I would say I'm in higher education, or was in higher education. I've just transitioned into foundation, NGO world, still trying to get the hang of that. But yeah, I've worn many hats in my life. And that's one of the things that I really talk about in my book, in my chapter. It's not my book, it's our book, but in my chapter. So what motivated me to do this? So just like Jackie said, you're sitting somewhere, you get a LinkedIn message from a name that you've never seen before, Doso Radido. I was like, hey, this name looks So they're saying, oh, we're doing this project, we want you to do one, two. Good thing for me, I had heard about, excuse me, Zion Pal, because they had a webinar on women leadership at USIU, which I attended. But to be told to write myself, I was like, hey, he should tell you the number of questions I asked him. I did a lot of due diligence. I went to somebody I knew was on volume 1 of How We Rise just to ask. I even went to their offices. Me and those people. I'll have a checklist and I want to tick off that checklist. And then in 1 week, I was ready to say yes. And here we are. Yeah.
You guys are risk takers. It's evident, it's happening. We are so glad that you're part of this. Now, as we delve into the conversation of the day, I think it will be very, very important for us to just get to know. Jackie, why should we as women be concerned with the risk taking?
I think risk taking, especially in women and most women, but I'm very glad that nowadays women are willing to take the risk. And like before, where we were not in a position to, like, you know, because there's that fear. What next? What if? There's the fear of unknown. Let me give an example. Maybe of a job, yeah? So you've gotten, and this is a real life experience that I had. Actually, it happened sometime last year. So there's this company that reached out to me just via LinkedIn, yeah? And then it was a startup, they wanted to do something new in Kenya. And then they're like, we do not even have an office. We want to try the Kenyan market and we want to hire you. I was like, okay, do you have any clients in Kenya? Do you have anything? They said, we have nothing. There's zero. So I was already employed at somewhere else. So I was weighing, do I leave my current job and take this job that I'm being told? And then I asked them, what if yes, I take the job and then 6 months later it collapses? What happens? What happens to me? Where will I go? What will I do? You see, so many thoughts were coming into my mind through that. But I was like, if I don't take it, how will I know? How am I going to know? So I was like, you know what? Because I was not happy where I was, let me take the risk, see where the water takes me. And I did. So I think as women, it's very important that we believe in ourselves, so that, because if you do not believe in yourself, you're not in a position to take that risk. So number one is believing in yourself and taking that other step of taking a risk or whatever it is that you want to do. I don't know if I've answered your question, Doti.
Okay, we are getting to it. We cannot answer it fully at this stage,
Yeah.
but as we progress, we shall be getting more answers. So
Yes.
Joyce Wangu, I hope I called it right this time.
You're trying, you're getting there.
From your own perspective, why is risk-taking a concern for women?
I'm going to take this from a very different angle and first say there's this notion that on average, and it's on average that men take more risks than women. So we need to examine that, what on average means. On average means that there are also men who don't take risks, and that there are also women who do take risks. And I think I would say, from a testosterone point of view, hormonal, just the way we are, men are more predisposed to take more risks than women. Just like perhaps men are taller, but there are also some shorter men. So from a woman's point of view, you're actually removing yourself from what is inherently, let's say, feminine, I would say. There's been a lot of talk of what is feminine and what's not, and risk-taking, even just the word itself, is diving into the unknown, being bold, being assertive, getting things done, moving things from one to another, or changing drastically. And it may feel very uncomfortable, but I think for women, embracing that, I would say, is what leads to growth. I would say there's nothing much happens in a comfort zone. You may want to be comfortable, you may want to be safe, you may want to be secure, but this just means you're going to stay in that spot for a very long time. And yes, you may be making some incremental growth, but very, very slowly. But if you really want to reap huge, big results, whether it's in your career, in your personal life, I would say risk has to be at the center of it. And I'm not saying we be careless. I'm just saying you see something, you want to go for it, go for it. You may not know what the outcome will be, but I always say, even if you do not achieve something, if you fail, because failure is, and we need to embrace failure. I know we'll get into that at a later point in this conversation. But even if you fail, at least you say you learned something because you put yourself out there. And that's why risk taking for me is such a big deal.
Thank you, Joyce. You talked about risk taking, not just some form of careless decision making. That brings me to my question. What then would be a proper definition between, or a differentiation between, a careless risk taking and a well-calculated risk taking? What would you consider in the procedure or in the process of a well-calculated risk taking?
I'll give it in my perspective. In this case, I always say thanks, Dottie, that there is really no right or wrong. It's just what I do, what someone else does, and what works for you. But I would say I would categorize risks into 3 categories. A calculated risk, one is what you called it. And then there's what do they call it? Is it a studied risk? I'll explain what it is. And then the last category is stepping out in faith. Like, that's the blind risk completely. I don't want to call it careless because you have God on your side, but oh well. So calculated for me means you have actually weighed the pros and the cons of this endeavor that you're gonna, if you're starting a new business, for instance, if you're getting into a new job that perhaps is going to demand more of your time, is perhaps if you're going to be getting like better money but you have less time, or if you're going to be getting less money but more exposure. So you just have to weigh calculate the pros and the cons and see what works for you, and then make a decision as to whether you're going to jump or not. Because if you want more exposure, at that point of your life, what you want is to learn a bit more, or to meet more of the right people, or be in more of the right rooms. But it means you're going to make a little bit less money. And so it's calculated. So maybe you can start a year into, start putting some money aside for that rainy day, because you know you will be making less. And then the second type of risk is where, yes, you studied the risk, but there are some factors beyond your control. There are things that you really cannot account for. Things happen. You know, you can be saying, so in this and this time, I want to have done this and this, so I'm going to do this. Oh, and then COVID hits. That's the year you're saying you're going to start your business. You're going out there, you're starting an events company. Nobody is meeting anywhere. And maybe you'd already given your resignation. You see, so that's what I say. How much adjustment can you play with? And then there's the third type of risk, which sometimes I'm very guilty of going, is just stepping out on faith. And I say this because I'm very spiritual, and I'm not religious, I'm very spiritual. I like to say I have a personal relationship with God. And so sometimes when I'm at the end of my rope, say I'm tired of a certain job, or I want to grow, I'm not growing, I just say, let's do this, let's go. And that's what I say, partnering with God and stepping out in faith. I'm not going to call it careless. I'm just saying, just having that God is betting on your success. And sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong, but you learn.
Thank you, Joyce. So sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong, but it is always good to try. Jackie, you just talked a little bit about this opportunity that came, you were headhunted for, and you are not really sure whether to take it or not leave it. Maybe putting that aside, have you had incidences in your career path or maybe leadership growth where you decided to take a risk and everyone else around you felt the other way about it, but you still went ahead and did it? What was the outcome?
I'll give a real experience, a real time experience. Yeah. So again, back to where I used to work before, just before taking this other job. Yeah. So I was given a position in another country, in Nigeria. Very hard market to crack. It was a new product that we were introducing in Nigeria, and because I had worked for a very big fintech in Kenya right now that's doing really, really well. So because of the experience I had, they were like, now let's take this experience to Nigeria. So Kenya and Nigeria, the markets are very different. The dynamics are very different. And again, Anne was there working with me, holding my hand, telling me you can do this. So the market in Nigeria was really, really hard. Ilikuwa ngumu. Kwanza, number one, language barrier. Watu wanaongea oga, my brother, they speak so loudly. Alafu unaenda hapo, they're like, you're a Kenyan, what are you telling us? And they're now justifying what you're selling to them. So for Nigeria, if something is not bringing money into the business, trust me, they're not going to buy. So I decided to come up with a roadmap on how we're going to make this product that you're selling at that particular time to work and be bought. So I came with this crazy idea. Unajua unapanga DSRs, unapanga food soldiers, you need marketing, and then my boss at that time was like, actually alishuku, was like, do you think this is going to work? Do you have those bosses that, yes, they've hired you because you're good at what you do, but because they are bosses, they're like, easy ideas zako, we don't think they're going to work. So I went to Nigeria, kaka kwa market, then I gave honest feedback to my boss. Kamwambia, this product, as much as in your head you think it's a very nice product, I've been in the ground, na nakwambia ukweli, I've tried all the market, I've done the research, nimejaribu everything that I did in that other company that succeeded, and it's not working for this particular product. So I gave him my honest opinion about the product, but because ilikuwa mtoto wake, his baby, of course, he was very hesitant to change a few things here and there. Unfortunately, the project or that particular product did not sell as well as he wanted. But just for me telling him the truth and how things were, vitu kwa grau zilikuwa different. Yeah. So I think it really opened everybody's eyes. So it was a risk telling your boss that, yes, you have a nice product in your head, lakini kwa ground, it's not a very good product as you think. So even having that conversation with your boss, the CEO, was a risk itself.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I don't know that to say sorry or, there must be an outcome. In life, there has to be an outcome.
These things happen.
By the way, that brings me to my next question, and this goes to you, Joyce Wangu. Does every risk-taking necessarily promise a success?
I can give a very clear no. It doesn't, at least not in the short term. That's what I'm going to say. Because I think we sometimes expect overnight results. Like you just want something to happen so quickly. So you're saying, okay, so if I decided to quit my job and start a business, then this business should be able to pay me as much as my job was paying me in the next quarter or in the next half year. No. I think sometimes, in most times when you take risks, you have to be a bit patient with the results as they are coming in, because reward is lifelong. Like there are some things I'm seeing the benefits of what I did like 10 years ago, and I'm reaping the benefits of that now. One of them, I don't want to give a lot, you're not supposed to tell people what's in the book, but I talk a lot about changes and shifts. So there's a time I just decided, this work, I have worked here for so long, I'm not seeing a growth. I'm not headed where I want to be, because I was wearing two hats. One, I was too young. I think I was too young, so I wouldn't be promoted to like management or director level at that time. And two, unfortunately, there's always this notion about women in that room and whatever. And so I quit. I did leave at some point. But what that taught me, that being away from the work environment and really learning to leverage my network, reach out to people, because I wanted another place where my growth will not be curtailed. I learned so much that when this season has been repeated another time out of my own volition again, in my personal life, it was so easy. It was so easy. Like I wasn't scared. It came. And so I think sometimes when you take risks, they teach you how to cope, even in the long term. You may not be experiencing the benefits at that point, but yes, but later. And I said it in my previous question that sometimes you will fail. Sometimes you will try something. I tried a business, I think in art gallery, because I love art. It failed. My friends really tried to buy, they bought a few pieces, but it wasn't going to move. But I learned something. I learned some bit of sales. I learned what to expect when you're moving a product. I may not be a salesperson in terms of products, but I learned how to talk to people and try to convince them to buy something for their homes. So it may not be overnight. It may take some time. Miss Doughty, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was kicked out briefly, and when I get back muted. Thank you for letting me know. So I'm saying, just to maybe build it up on what you have just said, how then, Jackie, does one need to balance between the desire for security with the need to take risk for growth? You need the security, but at the same time, you need to grow, and it will take you risk taking for you to get to the next level. How can we balance that?
I think number one, you have to be mentally prepared for anything that might happen. I love what Joyce has said, that you need to have that leap of faith, even when you're going to the unknown, the next unknown thing that you want to do. So number one, be mentally prepared that whatever it is that you are getting into or your next steps might work or might not work. So maybe a perfect example or how someone can be prepared for that is, okay, let's say I want to quit my job, but I don't know what my next move is going to be. Maybe the work environment is not good for me. So before I take that risk of quitting my job, I need to have pre-planned, yeah, because you just do not wake up one day and say, I'm quitting my job. So number one, you have to be financially prepared, so that, as we know, it's very hard to get jobs nowadays. So maybe have a buffer of like between 3 to 6 months that you can survive even without if you don't get a job. So number one is really proper planning. Just plan yourself and just plan.
Proper planning.
Yes,
As
proper
much as you
planning.
need the security, you also need to take the risk for you to grow. Planning
Yes,
has to be in place. Thank
exactly.
you for that. Now, we are at different levels when it comes to risk taking. And for you women to come out here to talk about this risk-taking venture, you people have individually, each in your own ways, taken risk, and have experienced both successes and failures, Maybe Joyce, is there a personal experiential situation with you where you took a risk, you were very hopeful, the expectations were very high, you made your calculations right, and still the outcome was not what you expected? How did you go about it?
You're asking for a situation where I have failed.
Yes, with your risk taking.
I would say yes. Actually, most of my failures are actually linked to my personal life, and I want to talk about that here. But, but anyway, let me see which one. Which how we go, Jackie? Do we dive? Do we dive right in? Right in.
Touch the surface. Just touch the
Dive,
surface.
dive
Don't
in.
dive. Don't dive. Just touch the surface. Share what is shareable, withhold what should be withheld.
Of course, yes, I will. Let me see. So, in terms of my career, to be honest, most of the moves that I have made so far have worked out all right. Like somehow things just they turn out all right. Maybe because I plan a little bit better. As Jackie said, you have to plan and cushion yourself. But in my personal life, wow, that one is a whole story altogether. Because sometimes you plan, you have this thought when you're in your late 20s that what do you call it? White picket fence. That's what we call it, right? You have all this life planned out. You want to live like this. You want to have somebody by your side by this time, you want to have children by this time. It's like it's laid out. And I have to mention here, it's not really a personal thing. I think it's a societal thing. People put things in your mind that you're supposed to have met certain things by a certain time. And so I think when the clock hit a certain age for me, I kind of felt like I had failed because I had not achieved those things at that time. And it personally, it was not for lack of trying, but it was perhaps because I wasn't ready. And it took me confronting my not readiness, like later, and just shutting off the world and saying, Wangu, this is what they want for you. Is this what you want for yourself? So you want to dive deep into this jungle, and then and then what? And so I think I'm gonna divert that into societal expectations that are mostly put on women, and these timelines that are put on women. Because I think we cannot divorce our personal lives from our professional lives. They really go hand in hand. And if you've read Indra Nooyi's book, and she talks about how our biological clock is at direct, like, it's disproportionate. What do we call it? Like, it's clashing with our professional. Like, at the time where you're supposed to be really working hard in your career, it's probably also the time you're supposed to be setting up your family life and everything. And I think the risk here, the risk that most women have to take, is sometimes some things will fall behind. And it's okay. It's okay. You can choose to pursue success in your career, success in your finances, at the risk of lagging behind, quote unquote, in your personal life. Or you can choose to pursue your personal goals, set up a home, have children early. And again, your career might suffer for that because you may not have as much time to be aggressive, to be assertive, to sit in these rooms, because you're away most of the time, like with your kid and all of that. So I think it's a tight balance for women. And I think that's why we're writing these stories, these narratives, to encourage women who are younger than us, who are coming after us, that you need to choose your path and be comfortable with the choices that you make when you're younger. And sometimes later on you may suffer for the mistakes, not mistakes, for the choices that you made, but like, choices have consequences. Somebody said you can't have it all. So that's what I'm gonna say in terms of failure.
Thank you for sharing. I know sometimes you may not reveal the nitty-gritties of it, but we get the point, and thank you for being vulnerable with us. Talking about societal expectations on women, and I want to look at the fear of judgment. It really very much influences the willingness to take risk. Jackie, what is your take on this? Looking at the societal expectations on women, the bar is set so high. So this interferes with the willingness to take risk. Could you please say something about it?
So the fear of being judged as a woman, yeah. So I'll talk from a very personal level. So I'm a single mom of two. I have two beautiful children, yeah, a boy and a girl, Ace and Alia. So from a family perspective, people tend to judge you because, how are you raising kids alone? So when you go somewhere and introduce yourself, there's a title that is put on you without anyone wanting to hear your story, because nobody just wakes up and decides to be a single mom. There's a reason on how or when it happened. So the society really tends to judge people like, let me call us, which really affects you in one way or another. Because I've ever been into an interview and I was asked my marital status, which I did not see the necessity of getting that question. And when I said I'm a mom of two, I was asked, are you married? I said, no, I'm not married. That interview did not go anywhere. So I think they judged me because I don't know how they took it, but I felt, because I said I'm a single mom of two and I'm not married, they had a name or something that they had already put it on me. So I feel like the society judges some people harshly. And that is one thing that makes me work even more harder, because I want to prove people wrong, that this notion of, you can be a single mom and have it all, do it all, or even do it better than people who are, in this stable so-called relationship, or whatever name we want to give it. Joyce, you want to say something?
I didn't want Dottie to ask me another question before I segue into this. And I really want to take a different tangent. And first, I really want to say that it is possible for women to have it all. It's possible, by the way. It's just that sometimes we don't. I know there are women, my friends who are listening on this call, they have stable careers, doing very well. They're in very good marriages. It's possible. It may be possible for some people, not possible for others. In terms of societal expectations, what I do want to say is that what we are doing now, this being so outspoken, this being very bold and coming out to talk about your fears, your struggles, your ambitions, or the risks you've taken, it's really frowned upon in very many circles, because in most cases, girls or women are socialized to be silent. And that's my take on societal expectations, because when we were growing up as a girl, you're actually told, you go and help there. The boys are probably seated. You're supposed to serve. I'm like, we're all kids. What is this? And so I think even when we come to the boardroom, you're going to notice women very, like, they don't want to say anything. You have something to say. You probably have the answers to the CEO's question, but you're like, okay, let the guys speak up. And then you're going to see, I have no problem with people serving tea, but I don't like that every time it's a woman who's been asked to serve tea. What is that? Like, no, like, let a man serve the tea. I also have a problem with the expectation that it's women who are supposed to take minutes in the meeting. So, like, because secretarial duties were put for women in the past. So even now, who's going to pray for this meeting? Who's going to be secretary? It's a woman. I'm like, now those are things that I'm stopping. In the rooms that I sit in the boards that I sit on, I am putting a hard stop to such things, because it's time that we moved on. And I think, sorry to take up a lot of time, even as we are raising boys and we're raising girls, we need to really rethink, like, what are we teaching them? Which world are we bringing them into? Because socialization and how you're cultured, how you're brought up, really does play an important part in how you show up in your career as you grow up later. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. That was indeed necessary. Thank you for that addition. So as we continue our conversation today, I would like to remind us that this conversation is brought to us by Zion Pearl Publishers. We have our details shared in the chat. We have a launch coming up on the 30th of November for the book We Took the Risk, of which Jackie, Matarimo, and Joyce Wangu are co-authors, together with others, who some of them are joining us for this conversation. To all the co-authors in the house, hands up. All the co-authors in the house, let me see you by a show of hands. We want to acknowledge your presence. We want to appreciate you. I can see Prim, Rose Mukami. I can see Debbie Hassan. I'm waiting for other hands. Beatrice Kiruri, Judy Nguru. So excited to have you join in. Thank you for joining. The books are ready. You can make your orders. We have a pre-order link availed on the chat. If you want to make an order for that book, please do so. As soon as we are ready, we shall have it delivered to you. And if you're looking forward to be part of the upcoming launch, which is happening on the 30th of November, we also have a registration link shared on the link. Feel free to fill in your details, even as you plan to be part of that celebration on that day. And together with us, we also have our contacts. Should you have a question, a concern, or you need any kind of assistance, feel free to reach out. This webinar is brought to you by Zion Pearl Publishers. We are looking at the book We Took the Risk. It is an anthology done by various women sharing their experiences on risk-taking, giving us the reason why we should value risk-taking and even embrace it as a strategy for growth and success. So excited to have you. And back to my panelist. Jackie Matarimo. Just like in the normal life of a woman, there are situations where we thrive, and there are situations where we may find a little bit of more struggles than others. Looking at your growth as a leader, as a woman leader, and of course focusing on the matter risk taking, what are some of the situations or circumstances that you find yourself more likely to avoid risk taking? Is it in relationships? Is it in finances? Is it in career? What are some of the areas that you find more tricky for you when it comes to risk taking?
Number one, finances. Yeah. So finances, money controls the world, and anything that we need to do, finances is number one. So anything before anything, so I just have to look into the finances, even when you are getting a new job today. So everyone wants to ask what, you need to know the salary so that you're able to see if you're going to take the job or you're not going to take the job. So finances will really play a big role. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. So are you giving the implication that when you look into your the kind of risks you've taken in the past, it was more difficult to take a risk that involved finances than any other thing?
Not really. Now, coming back, let me just touch a bit on some a paragraph that I've written in the book. Yeah. So I took a risk of decided to start a business because that business at that particular time was booming. Everyone was opening that business. So I told myself, if everyone else is thriving in this business, I'm likely to thrive. Shock on me. So I took my savings, opened that business. Trust me, 6 months later, I was crying because everything burnt down, like everything. Yeah. So it was a very risky. I think it was not a well calculated move at that particular time. I was very young at that particular time, and then I was no, and it was not the coil business, the coils business. No, it was not. So I did not calculate well. I did that because everyone else was doing. I did not want to be unique. So I just followed what everyone was doing. So what I learned from that is even if I'm taking a risk, I need to do a research and not do what every other person is doing. Let your idea be unique so that even if it fails or thrives, it's going to be a unique idea or a unique business that you're getting yourself into, not because everyone is that business. Yes.
Thank you for that. So we should not go about copy pasting risk taking.
Yeah,
So
let's
and
not
so did
forget.
it, and they managed. So we're also going to do the same. We need our
Yes.
own planning and our own strategies. Thank you
Yes.
for that. Joyce, Wangu, I would love to hear. I would love to hear what your thought is about the same. Are there areas where you find it more difficult to take risk than other areas? Would you be willing to share some of that?
For me, I wouldn't say it's quite static. It's changed. It's changed as I'm growing. I would say perhaps when I was in my 20s, I was very open to money could money could just be spent, like, money's just been going anywhere. So I was very adventurous in terms of I want to travel, I want to see places, and I want to do this, and so that's what I did. Now, as I'm moving into I moved into my 30s. I know, and now I'm a mom. Once you wear a certain hat, now you have to be a bit more careful. So I realized that I'm a bit more cautious in terms of where I'm investing. I do a bit more of due diligence before I put my money somewhere. Like, I need to know what returns will they be, like at what point will the money come in. I'm a bit more cautious there. In terms of relationships, what were the three categories? There was finance, relationships, and career.
Yeah.
Now, career, anybody who's listening on this call and who's my friend will tell you, me, I am the person of throw caution to the wind. Let's go. Let's do this. If I stay at a place more than five years, my brain starts telling me no. There's like an alarm system that starts ringing in my head. It's time to move. It's time to go. It's time to grow. And so I perhaps negotiate a promotion or mostly I'm promoted before even the 5 years, but I try get into a really higher role or really more money, but I know I'm going to leave. So for career-wise, I've never had a problem in terms of taking risks. But in terms of relationships, oh my goodness. Hey, that one needs a whole book on its own. This one is an I took the risk Wangu version that needs to be written because I have very good friends. I have friends, and I say relationships, not just male, female, because they're parental relationships, they're sister, sibling, they're friends, all of those. I treasure the relationships in my life because I go for sound advice from some of these people who I know have progressed in certain areas ahead of me. But I will tell you that I have a very tight circle. It's a very small circle. I know very many people, by the way, but the few people who are very vulnerable with, those are the ones who can tell you the real story. The rest, me won't lie. If we're hatupelekani mahali like this, like that, me I cut off very easily. If that is taking a risk, then let's just say I'm very quick to cut people off. We need to add value in each other's lives. We need to go somewhere. So let's not pull each other behind. Tusonge, bele, always forward.
Also, Joyce, and also I think as we get older, our circle tend to become smaller. Yeah. So you keep people who add value in your risk, not in your skill. The book is in my head. In your circle, yeah, you keep people who add value in your circle because again, having too many friends is a risk on itself. It's a risk.
Don't even have the time to attend to all of them.
Yeah, because
Those friendships take a lot of intentionality.
Yes, there's a lot of you need energy, you need so.
Listening to you both ladies, I'm coming to realize that it is possible to grow. Tolerance is developed over time as you take one risk, win over it, and another one. How will the two of you gauge your tolerance level at this point? Joyce Wangu.
I have built, I would say my risk appetite is quite high. My risk appetite is very high. I'm very open to trying new things. But as I'm saying, now when they touch on, say, things to do with me and being a mom and my daughter, I'm realizing like I climb mountains. That's risking for me. I can't as easily make that move as I did before I had my daughter because if anything happens to me, and then who am I leaving my daughter with? And so, but in terms of you called it what? What's that? That's what? Risk tolerance.
Yeah, tolerance.
It has really been built over time. And I think because I have put myself out there over and over again, whether it's leaving a job, whether it's leaving a relationship, whether it's taking up space and saying what's on my mind boldly, being assertive, going to ask for help. Because asking for help is in itself taking a risk. Because somebody could say no. Like being vulnerable, people like, I need help me with this, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for this gig, I want a consultancy here, I'm starting a company. All of those are taking risks. So I think the more risks you take, the more tolerant you become. It's like a muscle, as I say. If you never exercise your muscle, like in the gym, you've seen those people who are so buffed in one place and then the other places are like, because you don't like leg day, so your legs are just small and then your chest is like Johnny Bravo. It's because you're not exercising your leg muscles. So the same thing with risk. You have to keep doing it. You do it the first time, it gets easier. Not easy, easier. Not easy, just easier. You get better at it, you build your tolerance, one risk at a time. And then you'll find yourself just doing it. Yeah.
Jackie, would you like to say something about your risk tolerance? Has it changed over time?
Over time it changes. Like how you're taking risks like 10 years ago is not how saizi you're like let me move with it. Let me give an example that something that happened on Saturday. So I do interior design on the side, and it's something that I want to do full time. That is another risk that I want to take. Yeah, I want to do it like 100%. So someone called me and told me there's a showroom that they want to set up. I've never done a showroom before, but let me tell you, I told them, I even went for a site visit. So this is a bigger risk that I'm taking right now in this interior design career. It's like 5,500 square feet. It's a massive project. So have I done it before? No. Am I willing to take the risk and do the job? Yes, I am going to do that job. So as Joyce has said, with time, you get, you're willing to take even more bigger risks than you used to. Yeah. Don't you on mute?
I can for sure see that with time, over time, we get better at it. This webinar is brought to us by Zion Pearl Publishers. We are looking at the book, We Took the Risk. The book is ready to be launched on the 30th of November. The two ladies speaking to us today are part of the co-authors of the book, and they're out here just to help us understand the value of risk-taking and why, as women, we need to embrace it as a strategy for growth and success. There are things we may not be able to achieve if we don't take risks. So we are here to de-risk risk-taking, and we are glad you're joining us. We have a pre-order form for you if you want to make an order for the book. When ready, we can deliver it to you. We also have a registration link for those who are interested in being part of the launch event that is scheduled for the 30th of November. You feel free to just register and join us on the day as we celebrate these ladies on the 30th of November. We also have our contacts available on the chat. Should you have a question, a concern, or you need any kind of assistance, please feel free to reach out to us. I would also want to encourage us to be putting down some of the things we are picking from this conversation. Like I said, it doesn't go without great lessons and insights. At the end of it, you want to look back to what you put down and you'll find something that is going to help you to your next level. So if you're in here and there is something, there's a nugget you have picked, there's a lesson, there is an interest, something that has come up, just share it in the chat. We will read it out loud so everyone can hear. If you want to say something to the ladies, feel free to do so. Let us support them even as we plan to come together on that day. So I'll be looking out for your conversations in the chat. Feel free to say something. Okay, so back to you, my panelists. I would need an advice for some categories of people when it comes to risk taking. And the first two categories of people I would want us to help out of the fear of risk taking are the overthinkers, the analytical analytics, and the slow learners. Let us group these two people together. What kind of advice would you give them when it comes to matters risk taking? Joyce Wangu.
It's interesting that you pose that question to me because I am a certified overthinker. I think through everything. You know, when we met, when we were sitting at that our physical meeting, when we were meeting all the co-authors, you told me, hey, you look a bit reserved. I laughed. I was like, what? Reserved? That can be, but I am an overthinker. I sit in my head a lot. But I think what the advice I would give to people, and because I was also having this conversation with one of my friends the other day, is that you always have to put like a timeline. Like with everything, you can't overthink perpetually. You can't mule over something over and over again, and time is just passing on. Just like getting onto this book, and when Mr. Doso reached out, and I put a timeline. And I remember speaking to one of the co-authors in the previous book. I was just looking at it. This is not our book; it's another group's book, but one of my friends features in it. And I remember telling her, I've given myself a period of 1 week, 1 week to do my due diligence. You know, visit the offices. It's like a checklist. Visit the offices. Yes, they exist. How was the process? Check with Perpetual. How was it? Check. You know, look at what expectations are there for me, like how much time will be required of me during the writing and beyond the writing. Do I have the time? And that works with everything that I have done over the years, is that I give myself a timeline. If I'm saying I'm going to leave this job because I'm tired or because I want a better job, am I giving myself a 6-month timeline to save, put money aside, or 1 year? because even it's not right to leave people kuacha watu kwa mataa. That's what we say. Sorry for any non-Kiswahili speakers in the house. That means leaving people, like, you don't just blind spot people as you walk out of a job. No, don't burn those bridges. I always say that. Ensure you tell them well in advance. Tell them, I'm walking away because of 1, 2, 3. Maybe they'll call you for a counter offer. Please don't take those counter offers. That's my advice. Sorry, that's a whole different. But yeah, just say, I'm going to leave at this time. I'm hand over vizuri, laptop, documents, everything, but give yourself a timeline and then do what you need to do. Take that leap, jump into the water, then find out, but timeline. You can't keep thinking on analysis paralysis is the worst thing that can happen to a person. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Awesome. Jackie, please help advise this other category of people, the perfectionists, the procrastinators. They are willing to take the risk, but not now, later on.
Kwanza hapo, I think I'm there, trying to get out of it. I'm a risk taker, but I procrastinate a lot sometimes. But it depends with the mood that I am in. I might think of an idea today and act on it tomorrow. I might think of an idea today and sit on it or work on it in the next six months. Yeah. So I think planning is very important in anything that we do. Always have a plan. And as Joyce has said, I think I'll steal some words from her. Have timelines. I think timelines are very important, and they make us be disciplined and reach our goals. If, let's say, you want to do something and you do not have timelines, 10 years down the line, you might not have done it. So have a proper plan and make sure that you have timelines on when you want to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. Yes.
Thank you, Jackie. Timeline is coming out to be very key when it comes to matters risk-taking. It comes along with planning. Thank you for that. I think I'm interested in getting to know Joyce. You have written a chapter in the book, We Took the Risk, but at this point, maybe just touching on the surface, would you highlight what one main thing you have talked about in your chapter? I know you have written some things, but I just wanted to touch on one and kindly touch it on the surface.
All right, as I think, because now these are taking a breather to just think. What Jackie was saying, progress over perfection. That's what I would tell to perfectionists, people who just want everything neatly, well arranged. I think one of my friends is listening on this call and they are a perfectionist. I will not say the gender because they'll know who I'm talking about. But progress, just ensure you're making progress every day with every risk you're taking. I've written about many things on this book, but I'm going to really touch on something that I also posted on my Facebook account. I posted it on my LinkedIn account. It's about transitions, like moving from one stage to another, because that's the flow that my chapter really takes. And every stage of your life, you're going to be faced with risk-taking in a very different way of things. When you're a child, for instance, the kind of risks that you're taking at that point, I won't call them childish, but they're helping you build the muscle to taking even huger risks when you're grown. And maybe at that point, you may not see the implications. But now when I look back and I remember the risks that I took when I was a teenager, the reason that I speak the way I speak, the reason that I'm confident the way I'm confident is because I started practicing that during my teenage years, actually. I was not a very confident child in primary school. I think boarding school, trauma or something. But in high school, something really, we talked about this before, the webinar before the webinar, but yeah. But I built something when I was in high school, learning to speak with people, learning to speak in front of people, learning to speak up, to take up space, to stand up for people who perhaps could not speak for themselves. I wanted to be a lawyer in another life. I didn't make it, but I would make a pretty good lawyer. Yes, I'm not bragging. And again, self-promoting is not wrong. And I don't know why women don't like to self-promote. Please do it unashamedly, please. Talk about yourself. But back to what I talk about a lot is transitions from childhood to adulthood, to parenthood, from working to being self-employed, to the periods where you're not working. And all these stages of your life will require such different versions of you, such different elements of risks. Sometimes when you say you're going to be a mom, the risk perhaps to step away from your 9 to 5, that could be the risk because you want to spend some more time with your children. Or to start a business that's going to be demanding less of you. And what does that mean? It means you'll have been putting money aside earlier in your life. The risk you'll be taking perhaps is not having as much time to spend with your friends because you're spending so much time with your baby or with your partner or with, and these life transitions, again, they really do help us grow. They bring out parts of us that we really didn't think were there. I think the Joyce that I was when I was 20, or 25 and 30 and 35 is so different. Like, I'm still me, inherently, it's me, my personality. But in terms of, I've been stretched, I have grown, and it's all because of the risks I've been willing to take at every stage of my personal life, of my professional life. So I talk about transitions a lot. So that's, yeah.
Thank you, Joyce. You want to get more of that story? You can join us on the launch date on the 30th of November, or you could as well make an order for your book. We have the pre-order form available on the chat. Just click on it, make an order. The book will be delivered to you when ready. Now to you, Jackie. What should readers expect from your chapter in the book?
I think a lot, but what comes out in my chapter is you should not be ashamed of where you've come from. Where you've come from does not determine where you're going or your next level. Just a glimpse. There's a paragraph or a journey in my life that I like, and it has shaped me for who I am. I used to be a T-girl somewhere, and so and it's okay to share that story because many people are going to be surprised, especially people who know me and they don't know that side of me, that I was a T-girl. People know the Jackie they know right now. They don't know the Jackie of the past. Yeah. So it's going to be an eye-opener that people should not be ashamed of where they're coming from. And if you put your mind into something, you have a goal of or a direction of where your life you want your life to be. Just work hard, believe in yourself, take the risks. So it's coming. That is what is coming in my chapter in the book. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Jackie. What I'm picking is that there's always a starting point, but that is never the end of it. Start somewhere and move forward. Thanks to everyone who is on this call. Please be posting the nuggets you're picking from these conversations. You pick something interesting, share it with us. You have a question, begin to prepare it because we're very soon going to open the floor for you to ask a question, to say something to our panelists of the day. The launch of the book will be happening on the 30th of November, and we are so looking forward to having you. If you're interested in being part of the experience of the launch date, please, we have a registration link shared on the chat. You can just click on it, give in your details, and wait for the day to come, and we shall have some good time together. Now, considering that the launch is not so far away from today, it is important also just to get to know, other than getting the book, Joyce, of course, we are going to buy the book, but then we also want to come and join you on the day of the celebration. What are you promising us other than just the book? What can we expect?
Well, we are promising you a good time. All right, before I get into serious business. I think if you can pick up the energy from Jackie and I, you can tell we're good vibes people. We like a good time. So of course you're not going to get bored. I don't think we would sign up for something that's boring, either of us. but and also I'd also like to say you're going to have other ladies who perhaps are maybe calmer, some are even more energetic than us, some are not, some are really like advanced. There's one lady I am really looking forward to even listening to her speech because I have heard about her for so long. I cannot believe we're even in the same book. I am like, oh my goodness. I won't tell you who she is. By the book. She's the first person. She's chapter 1. She's like the introducer of us all. And because I've been in the higher education space and she's in the higher education space, I didn't think there was a time we'd get to like meet and interact. So I'm looking forward to that. So what I'm promising the audience is, one, you're going to get to hear from a variety of voices. a variety of perspectives. Like how Jackie thinks is not how I think, or how Prim thinks, or how Eunice thinks. So you're gonna pick something from all of us, and you chew on a lot, like both in terms of your mind, perhaps also in terms of your physical, like mtakula kakiru. And then we can also have those conversations at the end of the lounge. It's an afternoon thing, very relaxed on a Saturday. So we can stay behind and exchange. If you have any questions that you may not want to ask like publicly, we're there. We're going to help a younger person. For me, I'm so keen on holding a younger lady's hand, because I think if some of us had been guided properly, I'm not saying we weren't, but we've got as much as our parents or the people in our lives, our teachers knew. But imagine if such conversations were happening and we pulled young ladies into them, and how brave and how bold and how assertive and go-getters they would be. So if you can bring your sister, someone who's in college, in uni, even in high school, bring them. Let's have these conversations. It's going to be an open forum. They can ask questions. They can get a mentor, because I'm sure some of us we also are comfortable getting mentees from there if it's something that your journeys align. So all that and much more. But come. And not just women, even men, please. I always say people like Obama, he says he is a feminist, and people are like, what do you mean you're a feminist? But what feminism is that you believe in the equal rights of men and women. It's not that there is anything. It's just that we all can share an equal platform. So even the men can come and just see how women are now getting out there, supporting each other, to do better, to grow. Yeah. Karibuni sana.
Thank you. I promise my presence, and I know there's someone here who is already planning to be part of the event. Jackie, I know Joyce has mentioned some of the things to expect on the day, but you will be having something more to add. What should we?
Is it my side or Doti's side?
We lost her. I think, let me ask you the question. Jack.
What I wanted to say is Joyce has said everything that needed to be said. So what I can add is karibuni sana, and come ready to listen to very interesting story. Come get inspired.
I think we've lost Dottie. So before she comes back, I wanted to be asked questions. But before we ask questions, maybe on the chat, guys can just start putting them down. One thing that really caught my attention with one of my friends, who's really like, she's a friend or an acquaintance. Okay, somebody I knew, and she's very high now in public service. And she's always said, do things afraid. Just do things afraid. I don't think there's ever a time where we're gonna be fear, like there's no fear. There's always fear. Like my former boss, who is a mentor and a friend now, keeps saying, as long as you can feel those butterflies in your tummy, it means that you really care about what you're about to embark on, what you're about to say. Actually, if you're not feeling those butterflies when going on stage or when speaking up in that meeting, you're not really convinced or convicted about it. It doesn't mean that you're a terrible public speaker because you have butterflies. It just means you care about the content. And so even as we are writing this book, what I nudge people is that do things afraid. If you're going to decide to jump over that cliff, to dive into that water, it's okay to have the nerves, but you'll figure it out on the go. Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. Say something. I filled the space. You give us a filler.
Is Dottie back? No, she's not.
No.
Our audience, you don't have questions for us? Can be in any field. Career, personal, anything.
Oh boy.
You guys are so cool.
Jackie and Joyce, you've done an excellent job, and I'm really, really proud of you. You've held a very good conversation, so that is very good. What I was thinking, and I don't know whether I should be asking this question because I'm a co-author, but I was thinking, do some countries offer better risk environments than others? What do you think about that?
I'm not so sure. So maybe I'm not sure about that. But what I can say is that at least here in Kenya we've started And I'm sure many women are going to be empowered, because this risk-taking conversation doesn't happen so often. People are afraid of having that conversation. I mean, everything that we do in our life, it's a risk on itself. Even you waking up, crossing the road, you driving your car, it's a risk on its own. So we take risks every day, and people do not, these conversations are not there. And I think it's going to jumpstart a lot of conversation here and there after the launch of the book, or if we keep on talking about this risk-taking step.
Let me attempt to speak to Beatrice's question. I won't say to answer, but to speak to it. I would say to some extent, yes. And I would question is, which country are we talking about? Because we talk about the West, perhaps Europe, and places like America. I would actually say they do. And I would link this to the kind of education systems that because I have interrogated quite a number of them. I know we are trying with this whole CBC approach, we're trying. We're getting it a bit wrong on implementation. And I know parents here, I don't say anything, but parents who are in CBC, I know mnakapitia, but anyway, I know the thinking behind it was actually brilliant. I think the implementation part of it is what's struggling a bit, teething troubles, but we may get somewhere. But when you look at how kids are educated, perhaps look at somewhere like China. And I was watching videos in a class right now in Strathmore, where we are looking at different education systems and just how they start, what they are taught. It's not about you're being told pronounce alphabets or sig, and those kids are being taught coding, and they are kids, like they're children, and they're being taught to code because they're being taught for the future. They're being taught for not things that will be redundant. Because look at ChatGPT, for instance, right now. You know that thing can write for you a whole book. It can write for you a whole essay. They can think for you. But now, are we teaching kids to think ahead, to be ahead of it? Or are we teaching children even how to interact with people? Because I think that's a huge, huge thing now. How do you teach children how to interact with their age mates, their peers, people who are older than them? Because we are losing it on personal relationship skills, and we know how important those are in the workplace, even in personal issues like, marriages. In this, unfortunately, looking at how high the divorce rates are right now, people probably just don't know how to relate with each other. And so I think pegging it on the education systems, children are getting more chances to take risks. There are more opportunities for scholarships. So they apply, and then they learn how to deal with failure. If they don't get the scholarship, they learn even earlier. So yeah, I would say so. But I think they're also exposed to a lot of really maybe nasty things. Like, if you look at the things that are happening in America right now, my God, where I say we are shielded. Our culture is very communal. There's a lot of togetherness. But then the gun violence, the violence like gender-based, so many things, terrible things happening there. And so kids, again, are growing up to be protected. So I'm not saying they are better than us or we are better than them. But in terms of the education system and how they raise their children to take risks and to be confident and bold and assertive, they are ahead.
Wakombele.
Yep.
Allow me to jump into this. Dottie has been kicked off for a reason or two. My name is Dosa Radito. I've been listening to the conversation in the background, and I'm glad to hear what is going on here. You ladies look amazing, and I like the insights you're sharing. As we allow Dottie to come back in, I will maybe ask one or two questions, but I want to start by commenting on the very last question that has been asked here by Beatrice. In my opinion, I think environments play a huge role in terms of influencing everything about risk, ranging from risk tolerance to risk appetite to risk experience to risk management skills to risk strategies that people have, and the ability to grow and learn. And you really do not have to even look at other countries. Just look at the communities we have in here. We have a lot of statistics since we started the She Leads project, and we can show you how the numbers are playing out. And it's very interesting to see patterns along communities. I'm telling you, the way people are behaving from Nairobi is different from how they behave from Western Kenya. The way they behave from Central Kenya is different from the way they behave from Nyanza. For example, when we started looking at the numbers, we are seeing a lot of people from Central Kenya who are comfortable engaging in ventures and taking risk. Actually, if you look at the names of the people that are featured in this book, for example, the highest number is coming from Central Kenya. And that has been the pattern all through. So there's something about the community and how they talk and how they engage that is actually more of preparing the people for engaging in risks, which is actually determining the numbers. Because if you go into the business world, for example, do you know that if you look at the women, the community that has contributed the biggest number of women, business women, is actually Central Kenya. And that does not just happen. There's something that's going on within that community that has placed conversations around, try this thing, it's okay to try that, etc. And another important statistic is the age at which people are starting businesses. When I was young, businesses were started by very mature people, old people. These days, you find high schoolers registering businesses. I was so surprised that people in high school have registered businesses, that they are doing businesses, that they are engaging in transactions that are running into millions. In my generation, we did not talk about millions until we went to college and finished. These days, people are talking about millions in high school. They're transacting, doing businesses online, etc. So the environment we found ourselves in has actually molded people. This generation and their relationship to risk and risk-taking is doing much, much better than the preceding 2 or 3 generations. If you look at the generations of our parents and the kind of things they did in our age, you just laugh at them and you wonder, what were you guys thinking about? Why were you not even jumping off the cliff? What was going on? Because there was a lot of reservation, there was a lot of caution, there was a lot of separation between things and ages and stuff. So people had to wait very, very long. That is why in this part of the world, it's not unusual to find a 25-year-old still staying with their parents. You go to the US, you will see 16-year-olds are beginning to think about getting out of their homes. Actually, those are people who are actually dating and thinking about getting married. So 20-year-olds are getting married over there and starting families. So if we bring your 25-year-old from the US today here, you may think they are adults. Then you show them our 25-year-old here, that's still a child that is being treated like so, because of the way the environment is conditioning people. So that there is something about the environment and molding people in terms of fashioning their risk competence, so that people who have grown in environments where risk-taking is normal, they are likely to actually take that as normal. You ladies who are risk takers, you watch what your children will be doing. They're going to do crazy stuff because you have made it so normal in that environment. They will ask you, Mommy, should I do this? You ask them, what are you waiting for? And you see, that is something that comes from an environment that has normalized the situation. But if it's in another environment, the mother will say, or the father will say, oh, let's think about that. Let's pray about it. Let's do this. Then they start procrastinating in a communal way. So that is not a person procrastinating, but a whole community of people thinking about it and praying about it. If you were brought up by my mom, you would have seen how we prayed about many things. And these days, we don't take that much time to pray. And I'm not saying praying is bad. We jump off and pray along the way. We pray as we flap our wings in the skies. You know what I'm saying? So there is something about the environment and how we take the risk. So nations that have normalized these things are doing absolutely better than what we are doing today. If you look at what's happening in the academic world, the youngest PhD holders are not found in Africa. They are found in the West, where they have normalized the situation. They say it's okay, you can get your PhD at 25, you can get it at 18, you can get it at any age. I mean, in Africa, you still have professors and lecturers who are telling you, what are you thinking about? We got it at 45. Who do you think you are? You want to get it at 20? Get the heck out of here. And you know, that's so bad. They are refusing to normalize the possibility of people getting those high grades because of the pains they went through and stuff like that. So somehow they keep sending that signal into the environment, and it conditions many people here to believe that you have to wait, or you have to attain certain ages or certain years of experience before you think about that kind of thing. And therefore, just to conclude on that thought, environment really matters. Some nations are actually ahead because they have trained their people to be okay with risk taking. And that is why you're seeing lots of innovation, lots of disruption, lots of progress and stuff like that, because that is coming from the creatives, the risk takers who are being supported in that environment. Of course, beyond that, there is a way the systems that have been built around that risk makes it possible. For example, when Mark Zuckerberg was starting Facebook and he went around looking for funding, and he saw the idea and the people gathered around him and they told him, hey, we are investing in this thing of yours. So that the way Mark was going to fail with Facebook is different from the way Jackie is going to fail with her interior design business, because none of us is investing in it yet. We just want to see her first burning her fingers, and then when she begins to make some profit, now we can start jumping in and supporting. But for Mark, he sold the idea, they gathered around him, and they invested in millions of dollars. So the way the guy was going to fail is different from the way we failed this side, because of the cushioning that we have around ourselves. So that here, we are a bit more cautious with our ideas. We are a bit more cautious with the things we want to take risks in, compared to what other people are doing in other places, because of the kind of support system that is thrown around us. Now, I have a question that I wanted to ask, and I was speaking this from the thoughts of Jackie when she started speaking earlier on. I should have asked it earlier on, but I didn't find time. When you were talking, Jackie, there's something that came to my mind about people who seem to be comfortable with risk-taking. And how I want to call it is having the I don't mind mindset. I don't mind the pain. I don't mind trying this thing out. Sometimes it's scary, but you look at the potential benefit and you look at the potential losses and you tell yourself, well, I have looked at all these things. I don't mind. Most people struggle with risk taking because they mind. Maybe they have the 5,000 shillings and that's all they have, and they are wondering, if I put it in this venture and I lose the money, what will happen to me? So if you find somebody who minds that 5K can get lost, they will not take the risk. But if you find somebody who says, well, I don't mind losing this 5K, I can just try. If I lose it, I'll look for another 5K. But other people will say, no. So I wanted to see from your experiences, do you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you don't mind? You don't mind the pain, you don't mind the growth, you don't mind what people will say, especially that is a very important thing. You don't mind being misunderstood. Is that something that is part of your risk-taking experience?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So right now, as I've just said that I want to do interior design and I want to do it 100%. People tend to, Jackie, why do you want to leave this corporate world that you are in? You want to go running, fighting with fundis in Isili or where? So funny thing happened. I got a client who needed some curtains. So I had to go myself to Isili. So after the curtains were done, I had to beba it in a gunia. Then I met someone that knew me in Isili. They were so shocked. The look they gave me was, Jackie is broke right now. She's carrying sacks of curtains in Isili. So people will judge, but I'm at that point that this is something that is going to bring me good money. And because you're judging me because I've carried a sack on my back, and it was actually giving me very good money. So I'm at that point that I don't care what people will say. If they find me carrying a sack, if they find me, I also paint houses. I do paint job myself. So I'm at that point that I'm doing it because I know what I am looking at. 3-5 years from now, I'll be laughing to the bank. Trust me. So I'm at that point whereby any risk that is going to benefit me tomorrow, I'm willing to take, and I'll take it gladly.
Wow, that's so excellent. Let me hear from you, Joyce. What is your experience with this I don't mind thing?
Thanks, Mr. Dorso. It's interesting just listening to you about environment, and I loved your take on that. In terms of not minding, well, yeah, I'm the prefect of I do not care what you think. I know my friends on this call are probably laughing because I embody that. I live that. I got to a point where what people say, by the way, doesn't faze me anymore. You guys can talk. I know why I'm doing this. I know the potential rewards for why I am, say, moving from this area to this area or starting this business or going to take a risk like endangering my life, as I would call it, as I try to get to the roof of Africa. I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to build resilience. So I think the moment you break free from those what if I lose the money, as you said? Or how will people think of me? Will they judge me? Will they, that judgment, will they look at me differently? Will they want to be friends with me again? Will I be disowned? The moment you're free of that, oh my friends, you are going to conquer. You're going to conquer giants. And
yes,
if what's his name? This David and Goliath. You talked about prayer as well. I'm very prayerful. I said I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. I do pray. And I do talk to God a lot. Like we talk like we're boys. But imagine if what's this David and Goliath story? Imagine if David had just like kept asking for permission. Like, no, my brothers, they are seeing me like this, and me, I know I've killed bears, I've killed lions, but let me just go and ask them, please, can I throw this rock at Goliath? That battle would still be going on to date. That small boy just stood there and put his sling and did the deeds and was done. So ignore the naysayers, ignore the noise, just move forward.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so amazing. Dottie is back, and she seems to be absorbing some points. Dottie, what are you thinking about? Looks like you're so lost in the conversation. Please unmute your mic and take over.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dorso, for stepping in, and thank you to ladies for being so resourceful. We have enjoyed this discussion today, and I know for sure that someone has picked something to take home with them. I would at this point like to open the floor for our audience to say something. I'll give an opportunity to 3 people at most. If you have something to say to the ladies, a comment to make, a question to ask, the floor is yours. Please, you can just by show of hand let us know who you are, and I will give you the permission to speak up. And as I wait for that to happen, I would also like to recognize again the presence of co-authors. I can pick some. If you raised your hand, that would make it easier for me. But I can see Julia Oyolo all the way from the diaspora. We are so excited to have you, Julia. Thank you for joining in. Beatrice Kiruri is here. Debbie Hassan, Primrose is here. We appreciate your presence. Thank you for the support. Judy Nguru, that is Julia Oyolo. Thank you so much. So anyone having anything to say to this wonderful lake, to team up with ladies they've never met, whose background they don't know, whose achievements they've not experienced, and they came together and shared their story. They were not sure how somebody else's story may appear in the midst of other stories, but all the same, they came together. That was a risk taking. Thank you, ladies, for taking the risk. We have the pre-order link. In case you need a copy of the book, you can make your order. As soon as we are ready, we shall have it delivered to you. We also have a registration link for the launch. You want to be part of the launch experience. You want to come celebrate these ladies, interact with them, ask those very personal questions. The link is there. Feel free to register and join us on the day. We also have our contact details as Zion Publishers. You have a question, you need assistance, feel free to reach out. We shall be at your service. So there's a hand that is up. Wanjao, please go ahead and say something.
Good evening, ladies. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Emma Wangu. I'm a good friend to Joyce Wangu. I've known Joyce since we were 6 years old. So I know her pretty much. And I'd like to congratulate Joyce Wangu and Jackie Matarimo and all the other ladies that you have co-authored this book with. And mine is just to assure you that I will be there on the 30th. I can't wait for these conversations. I can't wait for this launch. And I even encourage you to even consider authoring your own book, because I don't believe one chapter will do justice to your stories based on what I've had today. And I am so proud of you ladies, and may onward and forward, and may God bless you, and may you do big things. You're an inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you, Emma.
You're
And I was trying to find my words. Thank you. This is my primary school classmate in class one. We've known each other for years and years. I'm so glad that you're here still walking this journey. These ones, they know the real me, not the one you've seen now. But
Yeah, I might also add, if you'll allow me, that Joyce and I are still classmates. We are doing our masters together. I think this
Wow.
is her second master's, so there's a lot. One chapter cannot do it for Joyce, at least.
I will
All
write
right,
that.
thank you so much.
I
All
promise
right,
you,
thank you so much.
I'm going to work with Zion Pal Publishers to write my own book at some point.
Yes, please
That's
do.
the way to go.
Thank you.
That's the way to go. Thank you, Emma. It's an honor having you, and thank you for supporting your former and current classmate. So anyone having anything to say? Tony, Brian, are you clapping or raising your hand? You can have something to say to these ladies, you know. I would have really wanted to read some of the postings we've done on the chat, but unfortunately, when Zoom kicked me out with everything that I owned. So I'm not having access to that. I'm sorry, but there have been some chats coming up, and that's why I'm giving this opportunity to someone who probably posted something. I'm not able to see it now. You could just as well speak up and say what you wanted to say to the ladies. Okay, it seems we have had an exciting time. I know as much as let me see, there's a comment coming in here. Okay, I think I'm going to get help with that. And so let us listen to some of the postings on the chat.
Well, I'll just help you with a few of them. I think we have some comments here. I think that was Anne Nyachomba who was just reiterating a point that I think that was said by Joyce about the power of progress over perfection. She liked the point. Ivan Juguna said, this is very interesting and inspiring. It's calming to know that fear is normal when one is to take the risk. Keep soaring, ladies. Wangu, you are a powerhouse. Whoop, that is what Eva is saying about you, Wangu. I think those were the only comments from the chat. Thank you so very much, and back to you, Dottie.
Thank you, Mr. Dosso. I appreciate. And that brings us to the end of our conversation today. But before we disperse, it is important to get a parting shot from each of the panelists. Please give us a very exciting invitation as you wind up this conversation. Joyce Wangu.
Oh my, you're asking me to wrap that whole conversation up with one. I think I'll be very brief. I've talked and I've run out of words. I'm going to borrow because I had Mark Zuckerberg mentioned by Mr. Doe. So I'm going to pick his quote that I've really been thinking about in this whole course of the book. And he said that the biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that's changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. So if you want to be a failure, my friends, don't take any risks. Just go bury yourself somewhere in a corner. Don't move, don't do anything, just be safe. But if you want to do something to move forward, risk taking is something that you have to embrace and embrace it wholeheartedly. That's my parting shot.
Thank you, Joyce. Jackie, what do you have to say as we come to the close?
I would just let people know that the book we've written, we took the risk. it's not only a book. There's powerful information that you guys will come and get from the book. So don't look at it it's just not any other book. It has very interesting and inspiration from these beautiful, powerful women. Come listen, especially my story, a girl from Kawangware to where I am right now. So it's a very interesting book to read. Very powerful.
Okay, so thank you, Joyce and Wangu. My name is Dottie, and I would also like to specially invite you to the launch. We have been promised great things there, networking, stories, getting to have our questions answered, some good food, of course, some good music, and also just getting an opportunity to meet a variety of beautiful ladies with various experiences, those who have taken risk. Even being part of this project was a risk for them. We have our details on the chat. If you want to be part of the upcoming launch on the 30th of November, feel free to register. There is a registration link availed. If you want to pre-order a book, we have a form there ready for you. Please do so as soon as the book is ready. We shall arrange it to be delivered to you. And if you have any questions or you need any assistance from us, you can also contact us. Our contact details are available on the chat. This webinar has been brought to you by Zion Pal Publishers. I have been our moderator of the session, Dottie Achieng, assisted by Mr. Dooso Radido, and I would like to say a very special thank you to every one of you who has made time to be here, and a double special thank you to our panelists who have openly shared their stories with us. I know for sure that someone is not in the same place they were when they first joined this conversation. Asanteni sana, and with that, have a lovely evening. Looking forward to seeing you again in our upcoming webinars. We have more in the line, so be checking out. We have another one coming on Wednesday, and we are looking forward to having you on board.